Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Laurabel Mba. On today's episode, we get to talk to the mayor of two neighboring cities, both the city of St. John's and the city of Mount Pearl. It's going to be a fun episode, and I can't wait to share it with you. Sit back, relax, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm now joined by the mayor of the city of St. John's, Mayor Danny Breen. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I'm really excited to get to talk to you about all the things that are going on in the city. So we're now in a new year. So why don't we take a couple minutes to look back at the things that happened in 2022? Were there any key moments that, as a mayor, you can sit back and be like, I'm really, really proud of these things that happened?
Well, I think 2022 will be the year that we kind of tried to get back to whatever our new normal is. It was a time when events started happening again. We were able to get back to having our usual regatta. We had some successful concerts, one in Churchill Park, for example, that was quite successful in the city. We had great weather, and that helped us get out and enjoy things and participate. The pedestrian mall was a big hit again this year in the city. And it also was mixed with issues and challenges. Things like, we saw inflation, we saw gas prices, interest rates rising. So those economic challenges faced us as well. So while it was a positive year in getting back, we saw ourselves staring down some significant challenges.
So when we talk about the significant challenges that were made glaringly obvious in 2022, as you guys started planning, doing the budget and building for 2023, what were some key items that you sat and said, we need to at least start making steps in these areas?
Yeah, so the first thing we recognized was that the challenges that households were facing, very similar to the challenges we face as a city. We were looking at increased costs. Diesel, for example, in the city, we were projecting a $4 million increase just in diesel costs. We saw the cost of supplies, cost of construction materials, cost of all our construction projects were increasing. So we also saw that the residents were facing those challenges as well. So the first thing we did is, in preparing the budget, is we said we really want to hold the tax rate at the 2022 level. So we didn't want to increase the mill rate because we felt that we had some reserves that we used very prudently over the past number of years. When we had surpluses, we invested, we paid down debt or invested in some one-time capital expenditures, but we always maintained a good portion of those for a rainy day. And I can't imagine that we've had anything more than a rainy day in 2022. So using some of those funds, we were able to hold the tax rate for 23, and our staff are busy at work on the 24 budget now.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about the budget and the fact that the effects of 2022 into coming into this year. When we look at the way things are changing for the city and the regions around, regional economic development is something that is on everyone's mind, especially when it comes to things like taxis. So how is that playing in for you?
Yeah, so we have our challenges. The taxi industry is facing its challenges. The economics of the taxi industry are very difficult right now. When you look at the cost of insurance, the cost of operating the taxis, and the cost of fuel, the drivers and the operators are having a difficult time, and we're working with them trying to find a solution or solutions to that transportation issue here in the city. The other challenges that we're looking at in terms of can be answered in many ways through increased economic development, developing additional economic activity, being prepared for the opportunities that lay ahead of us. And we've been working with our City of Mount Pearl, Town of Paradise, Town of CBS, and looking at how we can together offer better, more effective regional economic development. Because in the region right now, people move from municipality to municipality throughout the day.
Yeah.
They may live in one municipality, work in another. So what happens in one municipality that's good is good for everybody in that region. Absolutely. So we want to approach it from a regional point of view. Right now, we do a great amount of cooperation regionally, whether it's fire services through the St. John's Regional Fire Department. The landfill is a regional landfill. The wastewater and water is both operated regionally. So we think economic development is the next thing that we can move on, and we're working on that right now.
So I'm going to touch back a little bit when we're talking a little bit about taxis, and we talked about the issues the taxi industry is facing. So I know a lot of viewers might be wondering, okay, if taxis are facing all these issues, why don't we just get Ubers and ride shares? Why is that not a thing? So, but I know there's a little bit of issue with that in terms of what authorities.
Yeah, so I think there's some work that we have to do there. So first of all, we've never been contacted directly by Uber about operating in St. John's. I'm not sure if we have the density or the population to support that. That's a business decision that Uber would make, or other rideshare companies. But to be ready for that, we need to have a conversation in the region on how we're going to manage the taxi industry into the future. Right now, there's different municipalities have different responsibilities in terms of managing or having jurisdiction over taxis, and the provincial government has a portion of that as well. I think we need to have a discussion on whether we should have one regional authority managing transportation in terms of taxi service. And if you look at City of St. John's Act, City of St. John's Act tells us what areas we can work in, and we can work in the taxi industry. But it's a 100-year-old act, and it wasn't there when rideshare companies were there. So we don't really have a clear legislative pact here now, but it's something that we're going to begin discussions with the industry and with the provincial government on.
So if we're talking about the St. John's Act, since it is as old as it is and things have definitely moved and changed since its initial creation, what would we be looking for to help fill those spaces?
Yeah, so what we need is an act that's modern. It should reflect the needs in a modern city. The act is over 100 years old. It has been amended many times over the years. It's become very disjointed. It's got issues there where we can't address the needs that the public expects that we should be able to address. So it's a prescriptive act. It tells us what areas that we can have jurisdiction in. Most municipalities across the country have enabling legislation. It's one that allows the municipality to move into other areas as those needs arise. So that's something that we're looking for. The current City of St. John's Act is antiquated. We've been 30 years waiting to get a new act put in place, and it hasn't been. It does a great job telling you where you can park your horse or what process you need to use to get sheep to move down Water Street, but it doesn't reflect the needs of a growing modern city and region like St. John's.
That's very true. We are no longer herding sheep down Water Street. So as we talk about getting an act that falls in place, sustainability is something that obviously needs to be built into this act. When we look at the sustainability of the city, what is that looking like on a corporate and community level? Yeah,
so what we've done is we've gotten together with our partners in the community and corporate partners in the city, and we've developed a community sustainability plan that sets targets for emission reduction and how we're going to face the challenges that we see now of climate change. We also have a corporate plan that looks at our own operations in particular and what areas we're going to concentrate on to bring our emissions down to meet the targets set by the federal government and the provincial governments over time. So they're very robust plans. They involved a lot of community effort, a lot of community collaboration, and ones that we're rolling out very soon. Just one recent step we made was the installation of EV chargers for vehicles. So we've started down there, we're installing 20, I believe it is. We've started installing some of those, starting with the community market on First Water Road, and we're bringing more and more out as we roll that program out.
It's really great to see that there are steps being taken to make it a more sustainable city and a modern city. So you've been mayor for quite a bit now. So before I let you go, I want you to take a look back on all the years you've happened to hold this title. Are there any key moments that if someone said, hey, Mayor, what was the highlight, and if you could change one thing, what would it be?
You know, I don't know if there was any key moments because we deal with so many issues on day in, day out. I think what's striking me now after being mayor for going into my 6th year is the changing nature of the responsibilities of the city. As mayor, I'm facing challenges that previous mayors haven't faced. We have a housing challenge here that's we have an increase in homelessness. We have some of the mental health and addiction problems that are, and crime that are issues that, although not in the jurisdiction of the city, they're issues that are very, very important to the city. So I suppose in that category of what keeps you awake at night, that is what keeps me awake at night, because we want to have our people healthy. We want to have our people, our residents of our city safe and secure. And right now there's a lot of challenges in that area. So the one thing that we do have, even though we don't have jurisdiction, we have the ability to collaborate and cooperate and bring people together. And that's the role that we're trying to take as a city, and as a role as mayor that I take part in.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to sit down and talk to me today.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back, everybody. Welcome back, everyone. I now get the opportunity to speak to the mayor of Mount Pearl, Dave Aker. Mayor Aker, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Laurabel. Good to see you too.
So I'm really excited to get the opportunity to talk to you about Mount Pearl, because a lot of people don't get to know all the fun and exciting things going on.
Yeah.
So let's start with, first, I want to know, how long have you been mayor before we go into the fun things going on?
So I'm entering my 6th year as mayor, and I've been on council now for a total of 13 years.
Okay, so you have seen the changes go through.
Yeah, a little bit of experience. And I found in life, whether it was my work life or family life, the constant is always change, and you have to look for new opportunities and new ways of enriching your life. And, you know, as a city, we do provide, you know, the core services like snow clearing and good drinking water and fire protection and that. But, you know, at the end of the day, too, what gives me and our council the greatest amount of satisfaction is the community engagement, the community involvement, and the spirit that we have in the city.
So, speaking of community involvement and community engagement, we are moving out of a pandemic, we'll like to say. How did that affect Mount Pearl?
Well, it changed immensely the way people interacted in all aspects of their lives, whether it was education, church, sports, and the like. It taught us new ways of interacting. Not always positive, but they were new ways. A lot of it was distant, a lot of it was using electronics and video and that kind of stuff. But, you know, as we came out of the pandemic, we've embraced some of those things that, you know, have led to, like I say, different ways of doing things. So, for example, the Connect Club of Mount Pearl just recently did a fundraiser, and they did it online using Facebook.
Whoa.
Didn't see the need and didn't have to bear the cost, for example, of, you know, assembling all that in a community center or a church hall, and they did it online, and frankly, they learned new ways of raising money. And then they take that money and they reinvest in the community. So, you know, it's all good all around. And of course, now we're pivoting back post-pandemic or in the endemic stage of COVID. All of our events are coming back, like the Frosty Festival will be back after a 2-year hiatus. And last year we celebrated our city days, did our Oktoberfest. We have a great working group in the city of Mount Pearl that runs our sports fraternity there and our sports groups. And as well, the city's always primarily concerned about families and youth. And we do a show, and Rogers has been part of that in the past, where it's called the Focus on Youth Awards, and we celebrate the community through the eyes of our youth.
So Mount Pearl is definitely known as a very community-oriented and family-oriented city. And with Frosty coming back this year, I know this is the 41st year, so we're not going to count the 2 pandemic years.
Number 41, yeah.
So we're not counting the 2 pandemic years that happened. With that being the first time it's back post-pandemic, are you excited?
Very much so. And we're going to start on February 8th, and Rogers is going to be a big part of that.
Yes.
With the parade of lights that ultimately lands us at St. David's Park for the lighting of the flame, the cauldron that celebrates the beginning of Frosty, and that'll be lit for the 7 days that the festival's on the go. But the festival is it's a huge economic driver not within just Mount Pearl, but within the community. Yeah. And it's a chance at a certain time of the year that some people might say, we're stuck indoors, it's pretty cold out. Not everybody can go to Florida. So they're all engaged. We got church groups, we've got sports groups, we got other community groups like the Lions Club and the like. They're all pitching in with 60 events over 7 days. And it starts with the Parade of Lights and finishes a week later with a thing called Battle of the Brains, which this year's being held, sponsored by Benson Buffett, being held on Valentine's Day. So, it may not sound so romantic, but it's a very intellectual and very trivial type of an event. And, hey, a little bit of competition is good for any relationship.
It's good for every relationship. So when we think about the city of Mount Pearl, there's a lot of change and growth that's gone on in the city in the last few years, especially. What has been some really pivotal moments for you? Yeah,
so Mount Pearl has become more of a mature community, and our growth rate is not as high as it's been in the past. But we've, as a council and as a city, we've also embraced the quality of life in Mount Pearl. Growing for the sake of growing, sometimes that helps your tax base a bit, but sometimes you're better off reflecting on how you spend the money and who it impacts. So, we look at all the demographics, for example, in the city. And there's no doubt, too, that our seniors are the people that built the city. And we run a lot of programs that support them through the Mount Pearl Seniors Independence Group. And, of course, then we also got our youth and our families, because you need that blend, right? You need that demographic diversity in the city. And we do that through the Mount Pearl Sport Alliance and through some of the other activities that we run. So I found in my 13 years on council, we've continued to offer the same great core services that people expect. I think we give very good value to our businesses and our residents. But the community side is probably the biggest change, and it's not necessarily unique to Mount Pearl, although I think we've been the leaders in that area. But our neighboring communities like St. John's and CBS and Paradise, we've all embraced similar things, but in our own way. So, during the winter season, St. John's, Paradise, and CBS will also have their winter events as well. And even though we don't necessarily work directly with each other on that, we all have them at different times. Yeah. So everybody in the region can enjoy all that the region has to offer.
See, I like the fact that you mentioned the region, because there seems to be a lot more regional cooperation as we've moved through the years. How are you finding that?
Well, the dynamic before I got on council was always this political competition between St. John's and Mount Pearl. But frankly, the mayors that we have in the seats right now are all working together. Our staff, by the way, have always worked together behind the scenes to cooperate. So the green zones, the trees, the open areas that used to exist between the 4 communities, again, CBS, Paradise, Mount Pearl, St. John's, they've started to evaporate. And now we have a lot more churning going on. You have kids in Paradise going to school in Mount Pearl. You've got people in Mount Pearl that work in St. John's, but you've also got a lot of people, say, in Paradise and CBS that come to Mount Pearl to work. So we haven't become one. We maintain our diversity, but there is a lot of cooperation behind the scenes through service committees. For example, Paradise, Mount Pearl, and St. John's, we share the same fire service, the St. John's Regional Fire Department. And our water supplies are all managed for the benefit of the region. That includes also Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, and other communities as well. So there's a lot more goes on behind the scenes, but it's more specific to what I call the core services. But in 2025, St. John's is the host for the Canada Summer Games.
Yeah.
And for that particular series of events, like the host will be, I think the track is being built out at the university. Mount Pearl is going to host some of the baseball. Paradise will host I think it's the beach volleyball.
Cool.
And CBS, with all of Conception Bay to offer, is going to host the sailing.
See, like I love to see the ways the different communities are working together, because I know it creates a more enriching experience for all the people who live and work in those areas.
Yeah.
So as a mayor, what drove you to want to get into that position?
Well, it wasn't something I wanted to do from the get-go. I was focused on my career, and then we had a family, so we were focused on raising our kids. But the more you get involved in the community through volunteering, with your children, whether it's through church or sports or the like, the more you get to know the community. And when my children turned 16 and 17, I realized, and they know I've said this before, they wanted the keys to my car for the most part, right? So that kind of set me free.
Yeah.
My spouse and I, we both have volunteered a lot in the community, so it was a natural move. And I was lucky enough and honored enough to get elected by the people.
So as mayor, has there been, as you look back over your time, key moments that you say, like, if nothing else has happened in the city of Mount Pearl, this is the one I'm really happy to have my name attached to?
No, I must say I can't really grab anything like that, because I'm not the type of person that's trying to build legacies.
Yeah.
My goal, like many of my colleagues, is to kind of leave the city in a better place than when you arrived. But the thing I've really liked the most, and I'll talk more about my experience as mayor, is our work together as a council. It's a very good team of people. There's a lot of respect around the table. We're very engaged, but we like working with each other. And what I'm proud of the most is that we can disagree and still move on and continue to share all the good experiences within the city of Mount Pearl. We're all there for the right reason, so I'm proud of the team that I work with.
So I got a few more minutes before I have to let you go back to your busy schedule.
Thank you.
What is one thing you would like our viewers to know about the city of Mount Pearl, about yourself?
Well, I'll tell you, Mount Pearl's a great place to come and live. It's a quieter city than some. It's not as dense as some of the other locations here, within the region, but it's a great place to raise a family. There's so many things to offer, whether it's schools, sports, places of faith, you name it, Mount Pearl has it. And when you live in the center of the region, Conception Bay is only 10 minutes away, the Atlantic Ocean is only another 10 minutes away. You're in the middle of everything. There's loads of shopping to be done locally as well as in the region. Transportation in Mount Pearl is probably one of the easiest cities to navigate, both within and around. So you'll never get tied up in too many traffic jams. So it's good, high quality suburban life.
I have to say, I do agree with you. I've had the opportunity to live in Mount Pearl, and it definitely was a great experience.
Nice.
I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to sit down and have a chat with me.
Thanks, Laurabel. My pleasure.
And we'll be right back, everyone. I want to thank you so much for joining me for another episode, and a special thank you to my guests, Mayor Breen and Mayor Aker. And we talked a little bit about something exciting coming up next week, which is the 41st Annual Frosty Festival, which will be starting on February 8th. And I'm going to be co-hosting the festival Parade of Lights with Jason Piercy. We can't wait to see you there. We hope you join us. It'll be starting at 6 p.m. at St. David's Park with the cauldron lighting that will be lit for the entire eternity of the festival. So we'll see you soon, and have a great day.
program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
If you have a comment about this program, we'd love to hear it. Email or call us, or send us your feedback through social media.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. Life has changed for all of us during the pandemic, and many people are turning to alcohol and drugs to cope. Even though most of us are staying home more, police across Ontario are seeing an alarming increase in impaired driving and the horrible devastation that goes with it. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
The One TV free preview is back, and viewers are loving it. Start strong with workouts designed to motivate you. Then reward yourself with our lineup of great entertainment. January is a one-for-all, free-for-all month. One TV, free preview on now.
Come share in the joy and laughter with Spirit of Newfoundland as they celebrate 25 wonderful years. Join your favorite Spirit